Before we begin, please imagine the bell notification is on and you're subscribed to Huna Stories. I remember thinking how carefully my mother had folded the napkins. She only did that when something unpleasant was about to happen. The dining room smelled like cinnamon and roasted turkey. The tree lights blinked softly in the corner. My brother Mark carved the meat with theatrical patience, like a man rehearsing for a role he'd already been promised. Dad cleared his throat before dessert. That was the cue. "We should handle your grandfather's estate paperwork tonight," he said, as if discussing weather. Clean, efficient. I had known it was coming. Not the exact timing, but the tone. The inheritance Grandpa left wasn't enormous, but it was enough. Enough to invest. Enough to build something stable. Enough to make someone uncomfortable. Dad slid an envelope across the table toward me. Not to Mark, to me. "You'll sign this over to your brother," he said. "It's the right thing. He's the rightful male heir." Mark didn't look at me. He studied his plate, mouth set in polite neutrality. He had perfected that look over the years. Agreeable, harmless, inevitable. I felt something old and familiar rise in my chest. Not anger, not shock, recognition. Every scholarship I earned had been described as lucky. Every promotion at work had been framed as surprising. Meanwhile, Mark's half-finished business ideas were promising. His risks were brave. Mine were selfish. I didn't open the envelope. "I'm not signing anything," I said. The room quieted the way rooms do before glass shatters. Dad leaned forward slowly, as if I'd misheard him. "This isn't about you," he said. "This is about family legacy." Grandpa's name hung in the air. I swallowed. "It is about me," I said. "He left it to me." My mother finally spoke, soft but edged. He wasn't thinking clearly at the end. That one landed deeper than the rest. I stood, not dramatically, just to create space. That's when Dad stood too. He grabbed my arm. Not hard enough to bruise, hard enough to be unmistakable. "You will do as I say," he growled, low, controlled. "Don't embarrass this family." The room shrank around his hand. I noticed strange details, the pattern in the rug, the slight tremor in his wrist, the way Mark still wouldn't meet my eyes. And then a voice from the kitchen doorway said evenly, "That won't be necessary." We all turned. Mr. Halverson stood there, coat still on, snow melting at his shoulders. My grandfather's attorney. He had been in our lives for 20 years, though rarely at dinner. No one had noticed him arrive because my mother had invited him quietly, assuming, I suppose, that this would be routine paperwork. Dad released my arm. "Why are you here?" he demanded. Mr. Halverson stepped into the room, not hurried, not apologetic. He placed a slim leather folder on the table beside the untouched envelope. "Because your father anticipated this conversation," he said. Silence thickened. He looked at me, not for permission but acknowledgement. I gave a slight nod. "The estate was structured intentionally," he continued. "The primary inheritance was granted solely to your daughter. Any attempt to coerce transfer under duress would constitute legal interference." The word duress sat heavily between us. Dad's face shifted. Not rage exactly, calculation. Mark finally looked up. "This is ridiculous," he muttered. "It's just money." Mr. Halverson's gaze flicked to him. "Then it should not be difficult to earn your own." It wasn't cruel, just factual. My mother's chair scraped softly against the floor. "We're not coercing anyone," she said. "We're discussing family unity." Mr. Halverson inclined his head. "Then the discussion can continue without physical restraint." The air changed. Something invisible but structural had moved. Dad straightened his jacket, as if adjusting for a photograph that wasn't being taken. "No one is forcing anything," he said, voice smoother now, but he didn't reach for my arm again. I felt the imprint of his grip fading already, replaced by something steadier. Not triumph, not revenge, clarity. Grandpa had known. Months earlier, when he was still sharp enough to play chess 3 moves ahead, he had told me quietly, "They'll assume it belongs to him. You must decide whether you agree." I hadn't understood the full weight of that sentence until now. "I don't," I said into the quiet room. No one shouted, no plates shattered. Christmas lights continued, their patient blinking. Dad sat down first. That mattered more than I expected. Mark leaned back in his chair, posture no longer inevitable, just uncertain. "You're choosing money over family," my mother said finally. I shook my head. "I'm choosing not to surrender something that was given to me." There was no applause, no dramatic exit. Mr. Halverson gathered his folder but remained seated, a quiet reminder that authority had witnessed everything. The rest of dinner dissolved into small, careful movements. Dishes cleared, chairs pushed in. My brother left early. My mother avoided my eyes. When I put on my coat, Dad stood in the hallway. For a moment, I thought he might say something conciliatory. Instead, he said, "This will change things." "I know," I answered. Outside, the cold air felt clean. In the weeks that followed, there were fewer calls. Holidays became negotiated rather than assumed. The warmth never quite returned to what it pretended to be before, but neither did the expectation that I would comply. I invested the inheritance carefully, quietly. I built something sustainable with it, not flashy, not symbolic, practical. My grandfather would have approved. No one apologized. Mark started another business venture. Dad never mentioned that night again, but he never grabbed my arm again either. And sometimes power doesn't arrive as a shout. Sometimes it's simply the moment a hand lets go and doesn't reach.